What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Fantasy Premier League video. This time, let's talk about Game Week 23. I have a transfer that I'm interested in making, but before we do that, let's look back at Game Week 22. Now, I got 72 points, -4, so 68. I didn't feel like this was a bad week for me, really. Only Target, Salah, my captain, and Johnston didn't return for me. Not really many huge returns outside of Fernandez, who's highly owned. His points actually harmed me in terms of overall rank because his effective ownership was so high. I decided to bench Rashford instead of Antonio or Calvert-Lewin, and they all got 8 or 9 points, so not really a big difference there. Reece James finally played 90 minutes, and he did pretty well. I still have a lot of uncertainty about him, and with the upcoming double game week fixtures that have been announced for many teams, James is who I am looking to transfer out, just so I can get in a good defender that has good fixtures and doubles in game week 24. Yeah, 24. So, yeah, not a bad week, but a red arrow down to 40K, which, I mean, it still isn't bad, but, geez, I need to start getting some more green arrows again. So, now that I've taken hits 2 weeks in a row, you would expect the points to start coming in, or at least I would hope so. Here's how my team looks at the moment. There are a lot of interesting debates this week with regards to who to start for basically everybody in the whole world, because we all have Cancelo, Stones, Gundogan, maybe Sterling, but basically Triple City is very common, and we're all wondering whether or not we play them. Me personally, I think a Man City clean sheet is very likely. I have nothing against playing their defenders. I'm going to play Cancelo for sure. Stones, if you have to play him, it's not a big deal. Like, just leave him in there if you don't have a better fixture. I mean, Man City literally are one of the best defenses we've seen, in the past 5 years at least. They're right up there for, top 3 best at least. If not better, their consistency is unreal at the moment. Liverpool obviously haven't been too creative, but that doesn't mean they can't score. Cancelo with his attacking threat is a must-play every week for me, though, so it doesn't get quite better than him. So looking at other fixtures with regards to captaincy, because Man City are ruled out, that rules out, Gundogan. I guess there's not many options from them either, but Liverpool ruled out as well. Chelsea, you can't really trust anybody there. So for me, the captaincy is going to Antonio or Bamford. Bruno is, of course, always an option. But with Pogba likely coming back into the team, that could hurt him a little bit, because Pogba sort of takes over some of the creative roles and holds onto the ball, where Fernandez likes people making runs off him, in my opinion. So I guess my only benching decision really is, do I bench Calvert-Lewin? I could easily play John Stones over Calvert-Lewin. I think that makes decent enough sense. But that's something I'll have to decide later on, as I'm simply not sure yet. Antonio versus Bamford captain is an interesting one. I'm going with Antonio simply because Fulham have not impressed me at all recently. So I have Fulham's goalkeeper, Areola. And so I've been watching them. Now, they did keep a clean sheet against Brighton in Game Week 20. But in that game, Brighton, if that's any other team, I feel like they finished those chances. Fulham got pressed and they could not deal with it. They lost the ball in their own half multiple times, and I felt like it was just very poor overall. I trust Antonio and Bamford. Initially, I had Bamford captained. They're both likely on penalties. These are both great matchups. Crystal Palace, who Bamford played, don't have Zaha. The one thing I am worried about, though, is if Crystal Palace just sit back and defend, I'm not sure how good Bamford would be in that situation. So I'm not too sure. I do trust Antonio and Bamford, and right now I'm simply sticking it on Bamford because I feel like Fulham have been a little bit worse recently. If we look at their recent results, Fulham conceded 2 to Leicester, which that's not too bad. They conceded 2 to West Brom, which is very bad, and they also had that game against Brighton where I felt like they were very lucky to not concede. And before that, they were actually defending pretty well, but I feel like since then it sort of fell off a little bit, and they're still Fulham. They're still not that good. And I guess the one major difference here is the fact that West Ham are more consistent than Leeds, and obviously they're much higher up in the table, and I feel like they're a little more trustworthy, and they potentially have more creative players around Antonio. Now with Lingard in the team, he looked very good last game. So they got Lingard, Benrahma, Cresswell. Souček's not creative, but that's another attacking threat for the team to worry about, which Leeds have those as well. But I feel like with Cresswell, and Soufal in there as well, but especially Cresswell and what's his name? Oh, Bowen. I feel like these are quality players. and I quite like the look of Antonio versus Fulham. So right now he's my captain. You know what? I'll go ahead and make my transfer. I don't know how popular Antonio is going to be as a captaincy option, but I would really suggest at least considering him. His statistics, even post restart and since he came back from injury, have just been very, very good. His creativity is pretty good. He could have scored last game as well. He at least gets one big chance every game, where it's like, ooh, he could have easily scored that. And he's basically just the main man, and there's no other way around that. There's a cat on the table. Would you look at that? Kiefer, get down. Sorry, buddy. Well, that was interesting. Anyway, now that I'm done dealing with Kiefer, let's make the transfer. So, Reece James, it's unfortunate. I wish that I felt I was in a position where I could easily hold him because I feel like there is high upside here, some decent fixtures, but he simply doesn't have the doubles coming up that other teams do. And that is why I will be bringing in the very exciting move of Lowton. 4.4 million, nailed on Burnley defender. I hope he's nailed on. It would suck for me to get rid of one rotation risk for another, but I'm going to bring him in, and that is the confirmed transfer. Now, the reason for this is when we look at Lowton's fixtures, I was looking at these earlier, and I simply couldn't deny them. Like, there's no way I can go without bringing a Burnley defender in. So, Brighton at home this week, I have to play him. It gives me a good matchup. And then I have Crystal Palace and Fulham in the double. That's amazing as well. And then after that, probably the best matchup possible, West Brom at home. Right now, that matchup is just amazing. So, yeah, and then later on down the season, they played Newcastle, Fulham, Leeds, Sheffield United still to go. So some decent fixtures in there where I could rotate them in, but it's mostly a short-term pick, which lasts over the next, 3 game weeks. So that's pretty decent. It's not, 3 is much more than 2. It's actually 1 more than 2 in case you didn't know that. But every game week counts. So I will consider that a pretty obvious transfer in my opinion. Now, dealing with the benching situation, I think part of this is going to come down to me looking at how well Manchester United have defended recently. I'll have to go back and watch some of the games, and I'll make that decision on deadline day during the deadline stream about whether or not to bench Calvert-Lewin. The deadline is at 6 a.m. tomorrow for me, so I will be up early for the deadline stream, so feel free to come by and say hey. I will be answering all your questions and everything like that. But yeah, hopefully this team can get me a green arrow. As far as other options that I don't have that I think could be intriguing, there are some decent fixtures. We have Ings against Newcastle. Now, Southampton haven't looked great. There's no way around that. But it's still a matchup where it's another benching headache. We have so many good players right now in terms of spread out money and not in premiums that I feel like that could be some points on the bench for a lot of people. Spurs versus West Brom. A lot of people have Son. If you have him, I would say definitely don't sell him. I would just play him and not captain him. That's what I would do, I think. I still don't look at Tottenham and I'm like, okay, they're going to rip through West Brom. I don't trust them that much right now. I don't see where their creative forces come from based on how they played recently. But you have to play Son against West Brom, in my opinion. In my opinion, there's no resting him here. Alonso is an option that I thought hard about, but I was like, I can't ignore the double game weeks. Marcos Alonso is somebody that I'm so interested in. Like, I hope that they continue to play him regularly, and I will make that transfer in. I have been making a lot of defensive transfers recently, and that may not be like the most optimal way to do things, but I'm pretty okay with holding on to my attacking players at the moment. And obviously there are the rest of the Leeds guys that I don't have that I feel like are great options. I looked at Dallas a lot too, and I think he's a great option this week, but he has the double in Gameweek 25. I may easily bring him in for that game week, dropping target. That's something I've looked at a lot. Dallas basically playing center attacking mid at some point. It's really crazy. He's almost like the new Lundstrom, if you could say so. Hopefully he keeps his spot, unlike Lundstrom though. I'm not too interested in many of the Arsenal guys this week, but Aston Villa have been conceding a lot of chances. I think Saka could be great for this, and also Lacazette. I'm quite interested in them. Obviously, I'm not transferring them in or anything like that, but if you have them, definitely I would probably play them over somebody like Gundogan. I'm not too interested in Gundogan this week, and the reason why I'm going to bench Gundogan, and he's second on my bench. Of course, this will probably be the week where Man City happen to get a penalty, and he will probably take it and score. But I think that the way this game's going to play out most likely is that it will be pretty cagey, and I think Man City could open up the game if they wanted to, but I don't think they will because the way they're playing right now, they're expected to win the title. They're the clear favorite, and I think for that reason, Pep will happily play out in a 0-0 draw or, very tight game, maybe score one and hold on to it. I don't expect it to be an all-out sort of affair. So for that reason, I don't expect Gundogan to necessarily get all the way forward and drift into the box as much as he usually does. So I still think he's quality, and if I had to play him, I'd be perfectly fine with it. But again, just the way I see the game going, with the possibility of 0-0 being so high, I'm not comfortable playing him over some of these other players. If I was to bench Calvert-Lewin for that reason, I think I would play Stones and trust the Man City defense that's been so amazing recently. So yeah, that's where I'm leaning towards with that right now. I guess I could always bench Salah too, but realistically, am I going to do that? I don't think I could look at him on the bench. So that is how I stand at the moment. I'm sure there are plenty of other options that I haven't talked about, but I feel like most of the baits this week come from benching decisions, and a lot of those are pretty hard to decide between. So I feel like a lot of it would just be me nuancing and not even taking a firm stand on things. I don't know. If you have Ward-Prowse, bench him. That's all I'll say. If you have Ward-Prowse, I don't know what you're doing anyway. But yeah, that's my hot take at the moment. Anyway, I will see you in the deadline stream. Hopefully you have a good game week, just not as good as mine. And I will see you next time.